And good evening, everybody, and welcome to Going Nuclear, full-blown coverage of the land. We are a part of the Fanatical Elves Network, a subsidiary of Fans First Sports Network. I am Ethan Greenberg, and I'm here alongside me with my co-host, Mike Rasinski. And joining us tonight, friend of show, three-time guest, Tim Alcorn, voice of your Cleveland Cavaliers. Tim, how are you this evening, sir?
I love the intro. I'm doing well. Greetings from Florida as the Cavs have just wrapped up a day 3 of training camp. So here we go.
Yes, here we go indeed. And Mike from across the pond over in the UK, he's ready for the Browns football on Sunday, as always, joining us. And so glad to have him along. Glad to have you with us. Thank you so much. Looking forward to Cavs season. I was just saying to Mike, we were having this discussion. I'm like, well, I guess this is kind of perfect timing and a good discussion we can have here because we just saw the Guardians, unfortunately, fall this afternoon. A bit of a bummer. But a month ago, we didn't even think they were going to be in the playoffs. There was going to be nothing. And they made it all the way back. They win the division. They're in the playoffs. They fall short. And then that stinks. That it stings, I should say. Let me enunciate there.
It stinks too.
It does stink. You're right.
It does.
It does. But then, the way the season ended for the Cavs last year was such high expectations. They get straight out of the gate and win 15 in a row. And they win 64 games, second most in franchise history. And the injury bug bit at the wrong time. They met their match in Indiana and they get knocked out in the playoffs. They fall short of where they wanted to be. So it's one of those things where I don't know what neither is good. Neither is good. But how do you compare that, Tim, to the team that has all these expectations versus the team that has zero expectations?
Yeah, that's a great question. And the sting stinks. It
does. Yes, it does.
It does. And no matter if you weren't expected to be there or, as you alluded to, those high expectations, it still hurts. And I'll tell you, for the Cavaliers, that loss to the Indiana Pacers, that hurt. It really stung. Now, let me say that by also saying, don't take anything away from Indiana. Listen, they were on a big-time roll going into the postseason. They were 34-14 from the first of the year on. They played great basketball, knocked off the Knicks in the Eastern Conference Finals, take OKC to 7 games in the NBA Finals. And I'm willing to stick my neck out and say if Halliburton doesn't get hurt in Game 7, I wouldn't be the least surprised if Indiana were the defending champs in the NBA. So don't take anything away from the Pacers. But to your point, Ethan, it hurts when that injury bug, which you've really avoided all year long, and you've managed minutes and you've kept guys fresh. Man, I thought Kenny Atkinson and the training staff, the medical folks, I thought they handled that brilliantly. And then you get to the postseason, and DG's got a turf toe, and Evan Mobley's shaken up, and DeAndre Hunter's shaken up. And it's like, wow, how could this happen at this time, especially after the complete demolition of Miami in that first round? You ask any basketball fan, junkie, follower, everybody thought it was going to be a Cavalier Boston Celtics Eastern Conference Finals, and everybody was so jacked up about it. And then Tatum goes down for Boston, and we suffer injuries. So, again, I don't want to diminish what Indiana did because, man, they got on a roll. But I think that sting, that hurt, that really drove the Cavaliers throughout the offseason. It took a while to shake that. But I also think it will motivate them coming into this 25-26 campaign.
So,
yeah, definitely.
Speaking of, you said they did, and I agree with you. I think they did a great job with limiting the loads on the key players during the offseason because they had injuries the year before that too. Would you do anything different this year or just say, hey, that was actually the right plan, what we had last year? And it just, sometimes these things happen. Or do you think they should change how they approach the season to try to help in the postseason again, injury-wise?
I don't think there was anything within those injuries that you can point to and say, Yeah, well, that's because they didn't play as many minutes during the regular season or whatever the case may be. You can't reinvent the wheel here. This is a team that won 64 games in the regular season, second best record in the NBA. So I don't think they go back and say, man, we didn't do this right. We didn't do that right. I think it's a situation where they look at it and go, yeah, maybe some things around the periphery or whatever, but I don't see where you go in and say, man, we got to just do it all differently because we didn't get past Indiana. And again, that hurt. It really did hurt. But there's a couple of moments in that Indiana series that if it had gone the other way, you think, I don't know if the Cavs would have won. Game 2, I think, is the one that really sticks in the craw. Really sticks in the craw. But listen, toothpaste out of the tube, you can't go back. So all you can do is look forward. But circling back to answering your question, no, I don't think they'll handle things a whole lot differently. You want those guys fresh. You want the team healthy going into postseason basketball. And for the Cavaliers, that was the case last year.
Right. Well, so the DG injury, when did he exactly hurt it? Because he sat out games 3 and 4 of Miami and 1 and 2 of Indiana. Did it happen at the end of the regular season? I can't recall. And so I apologize for that, but when was
it happened early in the Miami series.
Okay, so it happened in the Miami. So all these injuries happened. So the Hunter thing was on a ridiculous foul that should have been a flagrant against Indiana.
There you
go. Then on the closeout against Evan, he rolls his ankle because, again, he was under his feet. That should have been a flagrant as well. I don't know what the refs were doing. They screwed up the entire last segment of the game 2 loss with the lane violations, and they don't call anything, and then they show it to you later, and it's like, well, what are you going to do about it now?
And you can't, right? And again, you don't look at any of those injuries and say it was a conditioning issue. It was this, it was just freak of nature things that happened. And listen, the Cavaliers, they're not an excuse-making organization, so they don't look at it from that perspective. But you also have to look at it from a realistic perspective and say, you have a full, healthy DG, perhaps that Indiana unrelenting pressure isn't as effective as it was without DG. Listen, they missed Darius Garland, and that's not a knock on Ty Jerome, but I think he got exposed a little bit in that Indiana series. Like they just couldn't handle that pressure, both ends of the floor that the Pacers threw at them. Not having Mobley, Indiana with that front line of then Pacer, Miles Turner, and Pascal Siakam. You needed Mobley in there, and he was missing. And then when he came back, he wasn't at full strength. So it's just one of those things. Sure, and there were calls. Believe me, you sounded a little bit like Jim Jones there. It was, there were some calls that were definitely missed. But that's life in the NBA, and that's playoff basketball. So you turn around.
It is. But let me ask you something, Tim. Do you think that the teams or the officials, they seem to officiate the game differently in the postseason?
Oh, no.
And I got a problem with that. Either you're going to officiate it, tight all season or loose all season. Don't change just for the playoffs because Indiana got away with murder. And it seems to me you start acting like the 1980 Detroit Piston bad boys and you're on your way. I mean, poor Jared Allen. I hate the fact that fans call him, you probably see it on social media, they call him soft. And I hate that because he's a heck of one that has nothing to do with who he is as a person. And he played all 82 games last season. And I'm like, come on, man, this is ridiculous. It's crazy.
Well, there were a couple of times, even during the broadcast. I don't mind playoff basketball. That intensity ratchets up, that physicality ratchets up. I don't mind that. Let the guys play the game. But there were even a couple of moments that I said on the air last year. There's playoff basketball, and then there's ridiculous. And I mean, this thing became almost a bloodbath out there. And
it did.
And as long as the officials were going to allow Indiana to play that way, then they were just going to keep coming with it. They were going to keep coming with that physicality. And so To me, it was unfortunate, not only for the Cavaliers, but I thought the NBA playoffs in general got too physical. I mean, I get it. You let the players decide. You don't want the ticky-tack fouls that maybe you see in January and February called in April and May. But there also has to be a line where, listen, it may be postseason, but we're not going to let you do that. And I thought there was a lot of stuff that guys got away with.
Well, right. And in game 3, when the Cavs were blowing the Pacers out, they called on their goon. It was like hockey out there. Rick Carlisle goes down to the bench and said, hey, you get out there. You don't play during the season except when I need you to go in and throw a punch at somebody, essentially. I think, what is this? What is the strategy?
Yeah, go use your fouls. And yeah, I mean, and we talked about that. Jim and I talked about that on the air. I mean, it was a blatant substitution that was made by Indiana. Now they were getting blown out by 40 points, so they were going to empty the bench. But still, you knew the message was being sent. And so, yeah, I thought that was an unfortunate part of the series. But again, in the end, Indiana wins it 4-1.
Right.
So, you put that behind you and you say, okay, how do we get to that next level? How do we get beyond that in 25-26?
Exactly. Now, I wanted to show you something, Tim. I was doing some digging here on the internet, internets and Googles yesterday. And I thought this was fantastic. And I saw this and was like, oh, I got to pull this up and play this for Tim and get your thoughts here. Or if your recollections, I suppose. Let's see where I'm at. Okay. I think that'll work. Okay. Let's play this and see if you remember this. Oh.
Huh. Well, I see that coming up, so I don't know what episode it is.
Look at this.
I love the graphics.
Oh, that's great.
Look at that. Now watch this guy coming out here. Who do we have here?
Oh. Wow. Oh my goodness. Yeah, you dug deep on that one. Look at that.
Yeah, at the Gund Arena, and with you is Joe Tate. and you guys are talking about Tyrone Hill and I got Ricky Davis and some other guy. And and I kind of chuckled at that, but I just was searching for some stuff last night and wow. and came across that. Actually, there's a bunch of episodes of this on online. And again, I wanted to share that with you because, as I mentioned to you over the summer, I was reading the article. They were talking about Tom Hamilton, and it was talking about how he got the job how he ended up with a job in Cleveland, and what Nick Maletti or was it who that he knew and gave sent him a note or whatever. And so I thought of all that and was like, oh, I gotta pull this up when we're talking to Tim. So I digress. That was completely out there, out of left field. But
can you tell us a little bit about that? What was that show?
So Joe was a regular on that show. I mean, I would have Joe on that show probably 3-4 times a year. It was kind of the kind of the Lorraine School's version of Wayne's World. There was in Lorraine schools, Lorraine, Ohio, in their school system, they had a little broadcasting department where they would work with kids in high school that were looking at getting into broadcasting. And so they had it was local access television, still is. And so I worked at the local radio station. So they're like, hey, why don't you come in, a couple of times a month or whatever and shoot one of these shows? And I'm like, sure, I'll do it, And but Joe just had a great time on that show. And some of the conversations that him and I had on Sports Scene, if it had a much larger audience, could have made some headlines because Joe never pulled any punches. And So I had a lot of fun with that. I can still remember WLCS TV 20. And Joe did the liners for him. This is WLCS TV 20. Lorraine City Schools Television. And he did the liners for him. And it was so much fun. It really was. And well, that brought back some great memories. But yeah, I'll bet you Joe did easily 20, 25 of those sports scene shows. Easily.
Well, in the intro, you're like, for the 673rd time, but there was another one where you're at, beyond this. I'm trying to think what year. It might have been during even the LeBron years, but you were there calling a game. You were at the Q or Rocket or Gun or whatever it was. You were calling a game, and then you're up and you visited with Joe, and you guys were trading barbs. You're trading a barb with him about his sweater. And then you're talking.
I think he made fun of my tie or something. And he's sitting there in a 77 color sweater. Yeah,
he looked like Bill Cosby. He looked like Bill Cosby from the Cosby Show, essentially. And you were talking about sitting on the floor because you had done a high school game and how your feet were like ice blocks.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that the ice for a hockey rink and a Rocket Arena, Chicago, Blackhawks and Bulls and all these arenas where the hockey team plays in the same arena, that hockey ice is right below the basketball floor. Well, any broadcaster or anybody that sits courtside, they learn that pretty quickly, that you put some heavy socks on or even 2 pairs of socks, because by the end of the night, your feet are going to be freezing. Well, I went down there to do a high school game, so I never even thought about that. And yeah, it was cold underneath that floor, man. You could feel it. And even in a shortened high school game, by that fourth quarter, yeah, my feet were cold. And I remember having that conversation with Joe.
Yeah, that's just crazy. That's amazing. But yeah, I ran across this last night and just like, oh wow, this is good stuff. This is good stuff. Gotta take a watch here. So yeah, last year was obviously that was not good. I guess, would you say the Styles Makes Fights line kind of fits or is appropriate to what the Cavs ran into with Indiana, in that like their physicality and the way they played wasn't a good matchup for the Cavs, especially with the injuries, but it wasn't free flowing. It was a herky jerky kind of a thing. I don't know. It just seems like certain teams match up better with others.
Yeah. I do agree with that sentiment that styles make fights. I don't necessarily agree with the fact that the Cavs didn't match up with Indiana when healthy. They needed DG in that series. Because Indiana, as I mentioned, they were 34-14 from the first of the year on. They were playing great basketball, and Rick Carlisle's a Hall of Fame coach. So once he realized, we may not see DG, or even if we do see him, he's going to be hobbling and not taking anything away from Donovan. And again, Ty Jerome, but they're not the type of guards that can really handle that unrelenting pressure that Indiana came with. Give Rick Carlisle credit. So no, I don't necessarily think that it was the style of Indiana. I just think it was how well they were playing, the confidence they had, and then of course the injuries to the Cavaliers. And when you put yourselves in an 0-2 hole, that is really tough to come back from. And like I said, I'd rather look forward than ahead, but looking back, it's the game 2 loss to me in the Indiana series. You had a 7-point lead, waning seconds of the game. You don't box out on the rebound. Yes. They could have called a lane violation, but still, you got to grab that rebound. And to Halliburton's credit, he drains a 3 and wins the game. And I remember sitting there just stunned, like, wow. And you could just feel the air come out of the arena. So that's the one. But I don't necessarily think that the Cavs can't play that style, but they need a Darius Garland. And I think this year, with the addition of Alonzo Ball, I know we haven't really gotten into this year and some of the acquisitions and some of the new guys, but I think Lonzo Ball, with that ball handling ability and that size to look over a defense and throw over the defense, I think that will pay huge dividends. I think that's a major, major acquisition for the Cavs.
Can I ask one sidebar broadcasting question before we move on? How hard is it to announce a game when just a gut punch, happens like the end of that game too? I mean, obviously you see the reverse of it too, like a game-winning shot has got to be just like extraordinary to announce. How hard is it, I guess, then to do the opposite and when you have a heartbreaking game like that as an announcer, just to find the words to describe it?
Yeah, it's interesting because as soon as the broadcast was over and we got off the air, our producer, who's one of the best in the NBA, Kurt McLaughlin, because we're all sitting there devastated, right? Mm-hmm. And Kurt got in my ear before I had left the Joe Tate perch, and he said, "Tim, you handled that call beautifully." Mm-hmm. Because you had, and I really took that as a compliment, because I'm sitting there going, "Oh man, we all were." And he goes, you gave it enough that it was a huge shot, but you also could hear in your voice that, yeah, you're calling for the Cavs. So when Kurt said that to me, it's a huge play, and you have to give it the justice that it deserves. I mean, for Halliburton to do that, and then he did it again in the next round against the Knicks.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, you have to allow yourself to say that's a unbelievable play, but also understanding that the audience you're bringing the game to just got crushed.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you're feeling the emotions as well.
Sure.
To the team, and yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, I can't say, Mike, that I've done anything to that level, but in broadcast, that's tough. It's nothing like when you're doing it and you're elated at the win, like this. So it's not all, those are the good ones. Not.
I don't know. I don't think we heard that, Ethan.
You didn't hear that? Oh, well, never mind.
I didn't hear it.
Oh,
that's all right.
Well, darn it. It's something. I apologize. It must be. Yeah. Well, heck. I give up. Never mind. No, I don't know. I was playing the clip of the Max Strus 3 against Dallas.
Oh. Yeah.
And I apologize. I thought that would come through. Unfortunately, I apologize for that. My bad. Oh, wait a second. Yeah. Well, all right, Mike confirmed he heard nothing. Well, sorry, Mike. My bad. Production is no good. Okay. Well, moving on. Now that I messed that up, well, good times there. No. So the Cavs did make some acquisitions. They made some roster moves this season. They draft Tyrese Proctor. Ty Jerome goes to Memphis. We kept Sam Merrill, traded Okoro to the Bulls, get Lonzo Ball, just added Thomas Bryant. Larry Nance comes back via free agency. And also kind of a low risk, I guess, kind of possible high reward, Killian Hayes signed him, right?
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, what do you think about the changes to the lineup? You already talked about Lonzo Ball a little bit, but just give us what's your general takeaway of what moves they've made and how that might impact things, the rotations, etc.
So this is a team that won 64 games last year, number 1 seed in the East, second best record in the NBA. And guys, I'm not blowing smoke. I think they're a better basketball team on paper right now than they were last year. And again, that's not to diminish the guys that are no longer here, but I truly believe they improved this roster. And we'll kind of go through them one by one. I love the Lonzo Ball for Isaac Okoro deal. Again, not to diminish Isaac Okoro, great defender. He just never quite found that offensive game. And so you're looking for a place where can we play Isaac Okoro? And when you're out there with Isaac on the floor offensively, it almost became 4-on-5. He especially come playoffs,
right.
He really struggled. Now you bring in a guy like Lonzo Ball. Again, knock on wood, we all understand he's got to be healthy. But when he's healthy, he's a terrific player. He's got an offensive skill set with size. He can facilitate. But He's not worried about being a high scorer. Yeah, he can really move that ball around. And on the defensive end, he's a great defender. So you really didn't give up anything defensively, Okoro, for Lonzo Ball. They're both outstanding defenders, but you gained a lot at the offensive end with Lonzo as compared to Isaac Okoro. So especially with DG being out the early part of the season, we'll see how long it is. But I think Lonzo Ball is a tremendous acquisition. I think the Larry Nance signing just flew under the radar. Again, he's been dealing with some health issues and some injuries, and you got to knock on wood a little bit. But Larry, since he was dealt away in the Lowry marketing deal, his three-point shooting has vastly improved. When he left the Cavaliers, he may have been low, mid-30s. He's been up around 40% in long ball shooting. So, and he's also versatile on that front line. He can play the 3. He can play the 4. If they go real small, Larry can play 5. So you've added a piece to that front line that, again, if he's healthy, he's a valuable piece. And Thomas Bryant, he's going to kind of fill that role that Tristan had, but I think he's going to get a lot more playing time. You saw what Thomas Bryant could do in that Indiana series last year, and even in the series against the Knicks in the finals. I mean, he got legit playing time with Indiana. So I think Thomas Bryant is going to get time. He's going to be an impact player, and all of a sudden, like I said, to me, this is a deeper basketball team and a more well-rounded team than last year's squad was.
Okay, so Tyrese Proctor, let me back up. Jalen Tyson, he's going to have a chance to really, are we going to see him get more meaningful minutes?
I think so. I mean, I'm not Kenny, so I'm not here to answer.
Right.
Yes. It's funny. I sat down with Jalen yesterday and did an interview with him here at camp, and I think this is a huge camp for Jalen Tyson. And even though you didn't ask me, but I'll say it's a huge camp for Tyson, and I think it's a huge camp in preseason for Craig Porter Jr. I think those two guys, they need to step up. They need to step up their game, and they understand that. But back to Tyson, I'll get to Porter in a moment. But for Jalen Tyson, those flashes that he showed last year, and again, he was trying to fight his way into some rotation minutes, and it was a team that was on a roll. So, Kenny didn't want to mess with the combinations and the rotations too much. But Jalen Tyson, they like this kid. He had a very strong summer. Again, we're only 3 days in, and actually today the Cavs didn't even practice. They got out of the gym and did some other things. But he's been impressive. He's been very active. So we'll see in the preseason. But I do think absolutely Jalen Tyson will see more minutes this year. And Porter, with DG being out, again, that point guard spot, can he facilitate? Can he keep his cool out there, which I think he does. And he's now in his 3rd year. That window of opportunity in the NBA to kind of demonstrate and prove to people that you can do this, which I think Craig has, but I think he can take it to another level. And I think this preseason will be huge for him.
Yeah. And what about Dean Wade? He's had some injury issues, but he can be very effective out there. He's a big guy. He can shoot. He's versatile.
He is. He's another guy that I think this camp is big for him, and he's even further along than Craig Porter is as far as experience is concerned. They love his defense. His offense has been up and down. When Dean's knocking down 3 balls, he's a weapon out there. But then he'll go for stretches where it just seems to disappear. So I think they're looking for more consistency from Dean Wade. And, there's a lot of talent on that front line. And Strus isn't even there yet. So when you add Max to the mix, and that's going to be a couple of months, but when you add Strus to that front line, rotation and combination, these guys are really going to be battling for minutes. So for Dean Wade, now that Nance has been brought in, I see a battle really unfolding there between Dean and Larry Nance as to who's going to get the majority of the playing time.
Huh. That's I hadn't thought of it that way. Thinking about Larry Nance and Dean Wade, kind of putting those guys in the same, in that same category for minutes and who's going to get those. You've mentioned that we knew going into the season this summer, after the end of last season, Darius ends up having the surgery for his toe, and we knew he wasn't going to be available to start the season. And then the Max Strus offseason injury, that's a bit of a bummer. So how are they going to handle the absences of Garland and Strus to start this season? We've got the first 4 out of 5 games are on the road. You're playing at New York to open. You got games at Detroit and Boston. And obviously that's just the first few games, but how do you kind of perceive or see the Cavs handling their absences?
Yeah, it's a good question. Kenny was asked this last week. Kenny and Kobe Altman had a kind of a preseason press conference, and Kenny didn't want to tip his hand as far as the starting lineup was concerned, but most everybody seems to think that it'll be DeAndre Hunter at that 3 spot in place of Max Strus. And DeAndre almost, in essence, confirmed that with an interview that he did the other day. So you can look for DeAndre Hunter to slide into that starting role at the 3. The backcourt, again, most people seem to think, Kenny said it hasn't been decided, but most people seem to think it will be Sam Merrill, who, of course, was signed or re-signed during the offseason. So, Donovan has shown he can run the point. He can lead the offense. So that gives you some size in the backcourt. It gives you some 3-point shooting ability when Sam's on. Man, he's a sharp shooter. And Kenny has talked about his defensive ability. And Kenny still maintains this is a defensive team first. They put up a lot of points last year and played an exciting brand of basketball at the offensive end, but Kenny still insists we focus on defense first. So that could be the reason why Sam will get the start in the backcourt, or at least it appears to be the case that Merrill will be your starter at guard. And then you'll have Porter and Lonzo Ball coming off the bench in the backcourt. Tyson can play the 2. And then in the front court, you've got Larry Nance, you've got Dean Wade, and Tyson can even play a little bit of the 3. So, he's got some versatility and he's got some flexibility within this roster and the lineup.
Well, that's good to hear. It's going to be a little bit of a tough start, but I suppose in one way, having the injuries at the beginning of the season and you get through them and hopefully you stay healthy. And like, as we talked about at the outset, the types of injuries these guys, Hunter, Mobley, Garland, all suffered came in the course of play. It's not a soft tissue injury or something along those lines. It's setting up to be another potentially great season. And the Eastern Conference, and that's kind of where I wanted to go to next, is kind of, the outlook on the Eastern Conference. But I should ask you this. Was it just me, or did it look like Evan and Jarrett kind of bulked up a little bit in the offseason?
Well, they each got their work in. Evan, of course, has that unbelievable weight room, physical activity type of place at his home in California. So he works out day in, day out throughout the off season. And again, he's growing into that body. You still forget he's only 24 years old. So he still has some room as far as, getting stronger. And Jared's the same way. Yeah, he looked a little bit bigger to me when I stood next to him at training camp the other day. So yeah, and those guys understand, man, it's a long grind. You get into the playoffs, you got to be at your physical best. And so that's a reason that you've got to make it happen during the off season. That's not something you're going to do during the regular season because once the wear and the tear and the toll of playing 82 games, that's not the time you're going to get stronger. You need to be strong going into the season to be able to withstand that.
Right. And how much of it, and when we talk about strength and going back to like Jared Allen, the overall, the team's mentality, being quote unquote tough, how, where does that switch come from for players to be at, and I'm using the term very loosely and air quoting for anybody who doesn't watch the video, but to be tough?
Great question. And you also have to break that down between mental toughness and physical toughness.
Yep.
And physical toughness is just the ability to bang bodies and knock people around and take a charge or whatever the case may be, or even deal out a charge just to let somebody know, hey, I'll gain a foul right here just to let you know I'm not going to stop coming. So there's the physical toughness of it. And then there's the mental toughness of dealing with adversity. And if you're down 10 with 7 minutes to go, how do you come back from that? Indiana game 2 is a perfect example of that. That was mental toughness to say, man, we're not going to fold our tent. We already got game 1. We've got home court. No, we're not done. And so there's a mental toughness aspect to that. In fact, Kenny touched on that shortly after game 5 when the Cavs were eliminated. He said we have to become mentally tougher. And that's even just small little plays like the box out on the rebound. Like every single second in playoff basketball, every possession is gold. And so you have to treat it like that. And just the small little things that you have to do, because the playoff games become so much tighter, so much more hotly contested. And they usually will ride on 1 or 2 or 3 plays that you can't take a play off. And so I think for the Cavaliers, they're actually more concerned, not concerned, but they're looking at the mental toughness aspect of the game. It's not necessarily that physical toughness. It's the mental toughness of it.
Fair. Very good. Very good. All right. Let's take a brief pause here for a word from our sponsors. You are tuned in to Going nuCLEar, full-blown coverage of the land, a part of the Fanatical Elves Network. And welcome back, everybody, to Going nuCLEar, full-blown coverage of the land, a part of the Fanatical Elves Network, a subsidiary of Fans First Sports Network. Once again, I'm Ethan Greenberg, along with my co-host, Mike Rasinski, and our friend of show, guest Tim Alcorn, your voice of the Cleveland Cavaliers on the Cavs Audioverse. We are looking forward to Cavs season. And again, thank you for joining us from down in Sarasota, Tim, again, as we've discussed here all evening. So looking up now, the schedule, how happy is your wife that you're going to be gone on Christmas Day?
That's an interesting question, because when the schedule comes out, I look at 3 things. I look at Thanksgiving, I look at Christmas, and I look at her birthday, because her birthday is in December. So now entering my 7th year with the Cavs. This is the first time. So I've been very fortunate. First time I won't be home for Christmas. But I told her in the summer, I said, Diane, the Cavs won 64 games. They're going to be one of the top teams in the NBA. I think we'll be playing on Christmas Day. And I had no inkling, but I certainly had a thought that this was going to happen. So it is what it is. I'll be home Thanksgiving morning before we'll fly out. We play Atlanta in Atlanta the day after Thanksgiving. So I think all in all, as Joe Tate used to say, Timothy, you play 82. So sooner or later, you got to play 41 at home and 41 on the road. And however that schedule plays out, in the end, that's what you have to do. So the thing that I just think is tremendous for the Cavaliers, now, again, national television has expanded, but 24 national television games. I mean, that just shows you the amount of respect that the Cavaliers have and where they stand in the NBA, because they're gonna put the winners on national television. So they're expecting big things from the Cavs this season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we saw it during the LeBron years, and it kind of got thin there for a little while. And even going into last year, it was real thin and seemed a bit disrespectful, when it came to putting the Cavs on national TV. Obviously, they got flexed into a bunch of, a number of games by the end of the season. So taking a look after last year, I mean, the East is wide open, kind of, sort of. I mean, it's there for the taking, I guess is what I should say. With
Yes.
Boston, they lose Jason Tatum to the Achilles in the playoffs. They don't have Porzingis anymore. No more Drew Holiday. No more Joe. And I had forgotten they had picked up Niang at some point. No Niang. I mean, that's the biggest killer right there.
That didn't last long.
No, it didn't. Indiana's going to be without Halliburton. Miles Turner leaves in free agency and goes to the Bucks.
Right.
The Bucks waive Damian Lillard. They get Miles Turner. And then Philadelphia, Joel Embiid and Paul George, they're still dealing with off-season surgeries. They're not going to be there to start. Or East, New York, they're going to be very tough. But they got a new coach in Mike Brown. Were you shocked that Tom Thibodeau got excused?
Yeah. Well, you could probably do an entire podcast on that. That's a tough place to coach, and those expectations are so high. And it runs hot and cold with Tom Thibodeau. So I just think every coach kind of has a run, right? And I won't say there was a mutiny. I won't say that, but the minutes that he was demanding of his players, I think that kind of came to a head. Listen, Tom Thibodeau's a great coach. I mean, he brought a lot of teams deep into the NBA playoffs. So I just think they felt it was time for a change. And because he's also a hard-nosed coach. He's a guy that'll get in your grill a little bit. And perhaps that wore on the guys. I don't know. I'm not in New York. But so
thankfully you're here. Thankfully you're in Cleveland, not New York. They can have whatever. We got you. We'll take you.
But I do think, you talk about windows of opportunity.
Yes.
For me, the window isn't just cracked or slightly open for the Cavaliers this year. That window of opportunity is this year and maybe next year. I mean, I think it's a long runway. But to your point, Boston, it almost looks like it becomes a gap year for them. Until they get Tatum back, and without Halliburton, Indiana, certainly I think they're going to be really, really hampered. So to me, Cavaliers, Knicks, you left out Orlando, who I think is going to be.
They are on my list. They've got to get better offensively, but they're going to be a beast if they stay healthy.
Well, I think they did get better with Desmond Bane.
Right.
That's a guy that can knock down three balls. And anybody that played Orlando for the last couple of years was basically saying, go ahead, shoot that three. Go ahead. Because they just knew that the Magic were a weak three-ball shooting team. Now, to their credit, they've gone out and addressed that need. So, I mean, Banchero is a rising star. He's the real deal, the Wagner brothers. So, to me, in the East, Cavs, Knicks, I think Orlando has done enough. Keep an eye on Detroit.
Yep.
Not sure they're there yet, but JB, how ironic is it that he was runner-up to Coach of the Year to Kenny Atkinson, right? So I got Detroit. I think those are your top four. And then Boston, Atlanta, Philly. I mean, you kind of ran through them there. It's kind of that bottom of the top six, and then you'll have your play-in teams. But to me, Cavs, Knicks, Orlando, that's the cream of the crop in the East.
Right. And I think that, those teams, New York has been, and I don't know what they will be under Mike Brown. Obviously, Mike Brown is, we've seen him here, and he's been successful, and he was successful for a short time there in Sacramento. It's kind of odd. He'll have his stretch where he's good, and then it just kind of falls off a cliff, or the expectations get high, and they're like, no, you're not meeting them, and they'll say, move along. And it's interesting.
Well, his scenario in Sacramento and his dismissal, that was not pretty. And I don't mean that from Mike Brown's perspective. I mean that from the organization's perspective. That wasn't handled well at all. But that's Sacramento's issue. I think Mike Brown is an outstanding NBA head coach, and so to bring him in New York, he knows the pressure cooker. He knows what that's all about. I mean, here's a guy that coached LeBron James, right? I mean, you know what coaching under pressure is like. You're expected to win. So, we'll see how that team adapts. Plus, they've made a couple of moves. You know, you bring in a guy like Jordan Clarkson that can help that basketball team.
And Yabusele.
Yes, right. So, I mean, it's a team that has done some roster tweaking, but any team that has Brunson and Hart and those type of players, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. And to me, Cavs, Knicks they're at the top. And like I said, you can put Orlando in the mix, but Cavs and Knicks to me are the top two in the East, and Orlando's real close.
Now, if they get lucky enough to make it out of the East, what's your assessment of Oklahoma City? Because they just seem like an all-around, just a well-rounded team.
We're meaning the NBA, not just the Cavs. We're going to be talking about looking at dealing with Oklahoma City for a long time. They are young. They are deep. They are unbelievably talented, obviously, with Shea and the rest of the group. But the thing is, they still have stockpiled all of these draft picks that, if they get into a salary cap issue or just, I'm not sure about that guy, they're just going to keep reloading. Oklahoma has really put together the template as to how to do this. And to me, Oklahoma City certainly would be the favorite in the West. I mean, until somebody beats them. And I don't know off the top of my head just to say that team can challenge OKC because they're really, really good, and they're so young. I mean, this isn't a team that kind of won it, at the very last window of opportunity, right?
No, they are. All those moves, you look back at what OKC did, because they had a group of three potential, if not Hall of Famers, borderline Hall of Famers in Westbrook, Harden, and Durant. They make it to the Western Conference Finals, and then it all goes kablooey, and you're moving guys all over the place. Sam Presti they did a magnificent job kind of rebuilding and regrouping. That was that was a heck of an NBA Finals. I normally, I would say when our team gets knocked out, like the baseball, I'm kind of right. Maybe tomorrow I'll feel differently, but right now I'm like, whatever. I'm not worried about the rest of the playoffs. But last year, the basketball, even after the Cavs got knocked out, I was still interested. I was still locked in and watching, just because I was like, Indiana's just intriguing. And Oklahoma City, they had a bit of maybe a tougher time than you'd have expected from Denver, because Denver's limited in their weapons, as it were. But it was just great basketball. It was exciting for Oklahoma City to get that championship. That fan base loves that team.
Well, Ethan, you make a great point. It was great basketball. And I think NBA fans, basketball fans, appreciate outstanding basketball. And whether it's from New York, LA, Chicago, Oklahoma City, Indiana, Cleveland, they love great basketball and they love great storylines. And so I think that's what really drew people in. By the way, the highest rated regular season game last year on television, Cavs and OKC, the first matchup, right? Because of the way they were playing and because of the outstanding basketball, it drew so much interest and so much intrigue. People didn't care if they were from major markets, small markets, didn't matter. It was great basketball. That game got so much buildup. And your point about Indiana and OKC, two small market basketball teams, but great organizations that know how to put pieces together, well coached. That's how you do it. And to the NBA's credit, 7 different champions in the last 7 years. So I think that the formula is working insofar as you build teams, you put rosters together, and then you give yourselves a chance and maybe even multiple opportunities to win a championship. And I think you're going to see that with Oklahoma City. I think the Cavs are following that template. We talked about roster construction, draft choice here, draft choice there, maybe a free agent signing, maybe a trade, and you put that thing all together. I think Kobe Altman has been masterful at that in building this roster so that now when that window opens, it's not just a one and done. We got a shot to win it this year, but then it's going to go away. That's not going to be the case, and I don't think that's going to be the case with any of the teams that we just talked about.
Right. So I'm ready for basketball season. I mean, in as much as a lot of people will say Cleveland is a Browns town, I think they're a winning sports town. Yeah, everybody loves the Browns and they're going to follow them, but the Guardians can catch on and catch the fever of the city. The Cavs have done the same. You put a winning product out there, man, you're going to have a dancing frog out on, what is it, East 9th or 6th or wherever it is. And people are gonna jam, Rocket Arena and Progressive Field or wherever it is. Cleveland wants a winner. And
Cleveland sports fans are as passionate as any sports fans in this country. And I'll tell you what, you named, the Guardians and the Cavs. I mean, I spent several games at Progressive Field this year. And when that place is rocking, it is absolutely electric. I mean, it's one of the best baseball crowds you'll ever be around. And trust me, I've spent a lot of nights in the Joe Tate Perch at Rocket Arena. And when that place is just going crazy, there is nothing like it. The Cleveland fan base, they're loyal, but they're also smart. So they recognize good baseball, hard played baseball, good basketball, well played and well coached basketball, and they appreciate effort. So Cleveland fans are the best. They are just the absolute best. And I think Cleveland players, once they're here for a while, no matter the sport, they come to appreciate it. It's amazing, the amount of players and athletes in Cleveland. They go, man, this is a special place to play. It really is, because of that fan base.
It is. And then you hear a guy like Johnny Manziel crapping on Cleveland. I'm like, get out of here. Get out of here. This is ridiculous. And what did they ask Lonzo Ball? He's like, I didn't realize there was water near Cleveland.
Well, those guys from California, the Pacific Ocean and all that. But
yeah,
no, I mean, you look at guys in all seriousness, Manziel's Manziel, but you look at guys that have come here and embraced Cleveland and fallen in love with the community. The thing that strikes me, not only the current players in the different franchises around the city, is how many former Indians, Guardians, Cavaliers, Browns stay in Cleveland. They develop this love affair with the city and don't want to leave and make it their permanent home. And I just think that's a true testament to what the city offers and what the region offers. And Lonzo Ball, he'll learn fairly soon about the about the benefits of being right on Lake Erie. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous.
It is. Now, and I also, Mike points out, I was going to mention this, Grant Delpit, talking to the media in London, said what it's like. It's like it's like Miami compared to. So they're having a good time over there in England. And you talked about the loyal fan base.
Yes.
And I think we may have touched on this the last time you were on. Maybe it was around the time it got announced. I'm not sure, but the WNBA is coming back to Cleveland. And I know in our prior conversation, we talked about how much Joe loved the Rockers and whatnot. I mean, how exciting is it to see things as you're around the building? Because obviously Rocket, I guess I don't know what the right word is.
Rocket Arena
and the group, it's like all
Rock Entertainment Group. They're building something around there. People are moving into positions and taking on these roles with for the Cleveland WNBA team. Don't have a name yet, but do you feel the excitement there as that's building up? Oh my God, guys, it's amazing. The organization has already taken in, and they're not even playing until 2028, but they've already taken in over 7,000 deposits for season tickets. Merchandise is flying off the shelves at the Cavs team shop, because that's where you can purchase the WNBA items, right? I mean, the response has been amazing, and the city is fired up about it. To your point, when the Rockers were here, Joe loved doing it. There was again Cleveland loyal fan base. So yeah, the organization is so excited about it. The community is excited about it, and it's 3 years away, and everybody can hardly wait. Obviously, when you have over 7,000 deposits on season tickets, that just speaks volumes as to the anticipation that everybody feels.
Yeah, that'll definitely be exciting. And then we've got the Cleveland Pro Soccer, and they're working on the WPSL Pro team and the MLS Next. I talked to Gina Prodan Kelly, and I mean, that's going to be exciting too. That all of this is going to be fantastic.
It just speaks volumes for the city. It speaks volumes for the region. You know, how they can bring franchises here and attract people here and sell the city. And it really is. It's a compliment to all of those folks, because Cleveland is a big league city, and it attracts big league talent. And the fan base, to your point, we talked about earlier, is loyal. They'll show up. They'll support the team. And word gets out about things like that. Listen, there are certain markets in the country that, you know, I think everybody just kind of goes, I don't know about that. That's not Cleveland. I mean, Cleveland is drawing and attracting businesses and sports franchises, and right on down the line. It's a really, really exciting time.
Yeah, and I do see, you know, Mitchell is repping the Cleveland WNBA merchandise. Have you met Donovan's new? He got married this summer, right?
I saw him at camp. Congratulated him, obviously, but haven't had a chance to really sit down and chat with him. But everything that I've read and that I've seen, he was more motivated this offseason than he's ever been. The Cavs are almost tempted just to tamp him down a little bit, like, hey, there's an 82 game season coming up. But going full circle to where we started, that loss in the 5-game series to Indiana, that hurt him. That really hurt him. It hurt the whole team. But, you know, there was that shot of Donovan just sitting on the bench in full uniform, like a half hour, 45 minutes after the game had ended. So that fueled him. And obviously, perhaps the engagement to Coco may have salved the wound a little bit, but he's anxious to get started. He is.
Right. Did you give him any tips for, you know, being a husband? Did you say, well, let me tell you some stories here about what to do and what not to do? You got to pass on the wisdom, Tim.
Yeah. Well, listen, he'll learn those lessons on his own. He doesn't need Tim Alcorn for that. No, not at all.
Oh my gosh. And you have been busy. So you went to the induction, the in Cooperstown for Tom Hamilton. How was that?
Oh man, guys, it was so incredibly special. And I was so humbled and honored that Tom asked me to attend. And first of all, I thought I was on camera or something, like it was someone playing a joke on me. And but to go to Cooperstown for a Hall of Fame induction, and Tom, of course, as he always is, pitch perfect in his remarks, and you know, the actual induction ceremony, and then the Guardians threw an event to honor both Tom and CC Sabathia, because even though CC went in as a Yankee, the Guardians still consider his time with the then Indians a very important part of his career and a valuable piece to the success that the Indians had at that time. So it was such a special night to have Hammy and CC there, and CC had his family, and of course Tom had his, and I was just incredibly blessed to be there. It was just an amazing couple of days in Cooperstown. It really was.
That is fantastic. And then I see you're doing some high school football, or have done a little bit for Rock Entertainment. Doing what, Avon Lake, St. Ignatius a few weeks back?
I did. I've had some great games to kind of get the season started. Although, here in Ohio, they're now going into week 7. But
Yeah,
I've had 2 games that came down to the last play. I've had an overtime game. Rock Entertainment Sports Network, Wrestling, as it's called. In fact, they're here in Sarasota with week-long programming on wrestling. But yeah, they've really dove into the high school football scene and do a great job. The production is phenomenal. And of course, I did a few high school football games in my past. So when they asked me to do some games, I said, absolutely. And of course, Ohio, one of the top states in the country, probably Ohio, Texas, Florida for high school football. So you're seeing great high school football. And yeah, it's been fun. It's been a lot of fun.
what has happened to St. Ignatius?
Yeah, well, again, it's we could do a whole podcast on that. Now, the game I saw them a couple of weeks ago, they played very, very well. So, hopefully they're turning the corner. But their legendary coach, multiple state champion, national champion coach Chuck Kyle retired, and so I think there's been a transition period there. But listen, St. Ignatius is St. Ignatius. They're still going to attract quality kids and put great athletes on the field.
Wow. Well, that is fantastic. I am sure that it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. We got all kinds of things going on. Cavs are ready to roll, and it stinks that we have to turn the page on the Guardians, but we'll look forward. I am definitely. So the Cavs start their preseason next week. They take on the Bulls, correct?
Tuesday.
Right.
Kind of a back-to-back, not back-to-back nights, but the Bulls on Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesday in Cleveland, Thursday in Chicago, and then a week from Sunday up in Boston against the Celtics, and then close out the preseason with the Pistons. So 4 preseason games, they're pretty much upon us, and then get it going for real against the Knicks on Wednesday, October 22nd.
Wow. Now, are you a big Chicago deep dish pizza guy?
I've enjoyed some Chicago deep dish pizza in my day. Yes.
Okay. I know some people it can be very polarizing. It can be very polarizing. The whole, whether doesn't Michael Simon say that's not a pizza? It's a pie. It's not. So,
Timothy, you can't go wrong with any sort of pizza. So.
Right. He can get and a DiGiorno pizza in the middle of the game. A DiGiorno pizza. That's what?
Classic. Absolutely classic.
It is. Well, Tim, thank you so much for all of your time. We really appreciate you being on with us again, as we know that you're busy. And so for you to come on with us and talk and have this great conversation, this is just fantastic. And I'm wishing you the best of luck this season. And we will talk to you again down the road. Hopefully we'll make it up to D.C. When the Cavs play the Wizards and we don't go blind trying to look at their court for the NBA Cup.
Only one trip to D.C. this year for the Cavs. So, yeah, I hope to see you there. It was great running into you guys and chatting last year. So if you can make that trip, man, I'd love to interact with you again. And I thank you. I thank you for having me on tonight. As I've shared with you, anytime I can join you guys, it's always a fun conversation. We always have a few laughs and great basketball chat. So just extend the invitation, and I'll be more than glad to join you.
Awesome. And enjoy your last few days in Florida, too.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right. Well, thank you very much to Tim Alcorn. And that is going to do it for Going nuCLEar. For Mike Rasinski, for our guest, Tim Alcorn, I'm Ethan Greenberg, and you have been tuned into Going nuCLEar, full-blown coverage of the land.